Today on the Freedom Cast, Melania Trump comes out in favor of abortion rights. Hillary Clinton calls for more censorship on social media. Ron DeSantis refuses to take Kamala Harris's calls on Hurricane Helene. And Lindsey Graham is a piece of human garbage. No surprise there. We talk about all that and more today on the Freedom Cast. Okay, so this is from The Guardian. Melania Trump passionately defends abortion rights in upcoming memoir. Melania Trump made an extraordinary declaration in an eagerly awaited memoir to be published a month from Election Day. She is a passionate supporter of a woman's right to control her own body, including the right to abortion. This is a quote from directly from the memoir. It is imperative to guarantee that women have autonomy in deciding their preference of having children based on their own convictions, free from any intervention or pressure from the government. So obviously this was a very controversial statement. A lot of people were very shocked that she would publicly defy kind of the mainstream Republican position. It's kind of been the case since 1973. And obviously, even though, as I said before, Donald Trump is definitely not a hardcore pro-lifer. At his core, he is a New York liberal, which I think is a good thing. I think that will help you in the general election if you are not as extreme on abortion rights. I'm sure this memoir coming out will probably get Donald Trump some more moderate votes if they know that where his wife stands on the issue. But it's still obviously a different position than Donald Trump. I think Donald Trump has definitely leaned a lot more into pro-life, or at least some restrictions, allowing the states to make restrictions. And Melania Trump seems to disagree. She seems to be fully on board with fully legalized abortion. So obviously we have a disagreement between the president and the first lady, which is not too uncommon. We've seen this a lot before in history. Famous example being when Eleanor Roosevelt publicly disagreed with FDR on black rights, equality for black people. She thought that you should be more aggressive and pursue civil rights. FDR didn't want to do that. And some more recent examples of first ladies kind of disagreeing with the policies of their husband is actually the past 5 Republican first ladies all disagreed with their husbands on abortion. They were all pro-abortion. Richard Nixon's wife was pro-abortion. Betty Ford was pro-abortion. Nancy Reagan was pro-abortion. Barbara Bush was pro-abortion. And Laura Bush was pro-abortion. And now Melania Trump comes out in favor of abortion. So it shouldn't really be too surprising. But I think another aspect that I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about is the fact that Melania is in fact a practicing Catholic. A lot of people don't know about that. Donald Trump is Presbyterian, but Melania Trump is a Catholic. And if you followed the news throughout Joe Biden's presidency, it's been a big controversy. Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, they're Catholics, but they support legal abortion. They publicly advocate for it. And it's been a big debate, especially within the Catholic Church, on whether or not they should be allowed to receive communion. Some bishops bar them from receiving communion. Others had no problem with it. So I wonder what is going to happen with Melania Trump. Is she going to be banned from receiving communion? Is a bishop down in Florida going to come out and say she can't receive after her memoir was published and she publicly comes out in favor of abortion? And then who knows, is Donald Trump going to attack that bishop, come out and attack a bishop, maybe make fun of him? That would be really funny to see him make fun of a bishop. Anyways, moving on. Here is a very disturbing clip of Hillary Clinton on CNN.
We should be, in my view, repealing something called Section 230, which gave platforms on the internet immunity because they were thought to be just pass-throughs, that they shouldn't be judged for the content that is posted. But we now know that that was an overly simple view, that if the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
So that was Hillary Clinton basically saying the quiet part out loud and advocating for government censorship of social media in order to control the narrative, to control, to push the establishment narrative. And you see, if you're watching the video, even the CNN host's face, he looks very surprised. He said, you're not supposed to say that out loud. Don't do that. And you heard her say the words, we lose control. And I think that just shows that the establishment and the corporate state want to control the narrative. They want to have control over the media. This is how the establishment operates. We have big corporations, the oil companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the defense contractors, Wall Street, things like that, all bribe the corrupt politicians in Washington, whether they be corporate Democrats like Hillary Clinton, Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, or corporate Republicans like Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, Mike Pence, people like that. They bribe them, and then these same corporations who give to the campaigns of the corrupt politicians advertise on corporate networks like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, things like that. And that is how they control the narrative. And obviously, with the development of social media, they have, as Hillary Clinton said, they have lost control of the narrative. People are able to speak freely and, be a lot of independent media, and they can't censor dissenting viewpoints. I think the main thing Hillary Clinton was talking about was the situation with Israel, that not everyone is bending the knee to Israel. They can't control you anymore and tell you that Israel's good or that corporate rule is good, or spew all kinds of propaganda to try to enrich themselves, basically. So I think that the clip from Hillary Clinton basically shows that the establishment is trying to control you. They do not believe in free speech at all, and that she wants to censor social media, which it just makes me all the more grateful that she did not win the election in 2016, because she is a fascist and she should be in prison. And it pretty much, I got nothing more to say than that. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. So, moving on. This is from NBC. Ron DeSantis is refusing to take Harris's calls on Hurricane Helene. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is not taking calls from Vice President Kamala Harris about storm recovery in just over a week after Hurricane Helene hammered parts of his state. A source familiar with the situation said he was dodging the Democratic presidential nominee's calls because they seemed political, according to a DeSantis aide. So I'm not really a big fan of Kamala Harris or Ron DeSantis, really, for that matter. I think they're both, criminal corporate politicians. They both suck. But basically, this situation is Kamala Harris is trying to, put on a big show about how much she cares about the hurricane in order to get votes. And DeSantis isn't taking the call. Now, I was kind of surprised that he's not taking the call because I'm pretty sure that he said previously that he doesn't like to play politics with hurricanes or natural disasters. I think he said that during his presidential campaign, but I could be wrong. But anyways, I don't really have too much to say on this specific story, but I do kind of have to talk about the hurricane in general. It's a pretty big news story. It's been taking up most of the news. In fact, I kind of had a hard time looking through the news articles for record this podcast episode. I couldn't really find a lot. It was kind of slow news days because all that the media's been talking about is the hurricane, and of course they have to cover it extra because it's an election cycle, and they're trying to make Joe Biden look good. Some of think some news stations are covering it less than others, because people are really criticizing Joe Biden's response to it. And this is really what happens with every president when there's a hurricane or something happens. They did it to Bush. I think they did it to Donald Trump with wildfires in California. It's always they're not giving enough money. They're not doing this. They always focus on what the president is not doing rather than what the president has already done. Of course, Kamala Harris in this situation, she's vice president. I don't know why she would be calling Ron DeSantis. But anyways, I think that a lot of people criticize Joe Biden for not giving enough aid. Really, this is going to be a controversial opinion, but FEMA is not a constitutionally sound agency. Founding fathers never intended for the federal government to have that kind of authority, that kind of intervention for natural disasters, things like that. In fact, Grover Cleveland understood this. He got sent a bill that was funding for some kind of natural disaster that happened. I forget the specifics. And he vetoed that because he simply said, I can't do that. The president doesn't have the power to do that. Federal government doesn't have that power. And I think that with situations like this, it should be handled more on the state and local level because that is where the tax dollars are the closest to the problem. You know, if we're paying taxes and we're all the way across the country, that's really not fair. We're really not directly connected to that issue. So I think that hurricane aid should probably be distributed on a state and local level. You should kind of adopt the philosophy of localism when dealing with natural disasters relief. But you're still going to have people, criticizing, Joe Biden or whatever, saying, oh, he didn't give enough here, he didn't do this, he didn't do that. Really, I think it should be the responsibility of the state governments to do that. And DeSantis, he's done an okay job getting aid. A lot of the other governors, they do what needs to be done. Anyways, I think that, the hurricane situation should be handled on the local level. I don't think that should be a controversial opinion. But anyways, moving on, sticking to the topic of hurricane, this is a very disturbing clip from Lindsey Graham, probably one of the biggest pieces of garbage to infest the United States Senate. Incredibly corrupt senator, very in favor of the military-industrial complex. Probably the most pro-war senator in Congress, and I think that's saying a lot. Anyways, here's the clip of him on Sean Hannity. They were supposed to be talking about the hurricane, but conversation kind of goes in a really twisted direction. So watch this.
Trump and Elon for that.
You talk about money.
You can thank Donald Trump and Elon Musk for that.
I've been going all over South Carolina like most people. I hadn't slept much. But look what's going on in Israel. Our friends in Israel are surrounded by people that want to kill them, destroy them, a second Holocaust in the making. And Biden says, be proportional. What is the proportional response to people who want to kill you and your family?
God.
They're running out of ammunition in Israel. We have to help our friends to keep the war over there from coming here.
They're
world
willing
is
to
on
pay
fire.
for the weapons.
Our economy is in shambles. They have been slow-walking weapons in Ukraine. The Ukrainians have been doing all the fighting. The border is broken. They care more about illegal immigrants than they do anything else, it appears to be. And this needs to stop. And how do you stop it? November the 5th. If you don't do something about it November the 5th, we got nobody to blame but ourselves as the American people.
This country will be unrecognizable. Senator Graham, thank you.
That was probably one of the most reprehensible statements I've ever heard in my life. He was brought on the Sean Hannity show to talk about the hurricane and the response and how it's affecting his state of South Carolina. And he immediately pivots to what about Israel? That's his first thought. His first thought isn't about the people of his state who elected him to serve in the Senate. His first thought is, what about Israel? Are they going to have enough weapons to massacre more Palestinians, to continue waging the war that America is funding? That is just a reprehensible line of thought. He's more worried about lining his own pockets because he takes a lot of money from AIPAC and probably Boeing, defense contractors who make a lot of money selling weapons to Israel. And his job is to work for these big corporations, these defense contractors, APAC, which is basically a foreign money coming into Congress, which I just think is so insane that Israel is one of the only countries where they can just give money to U.S. politicians and nobody cares. Imagine if Russia was giving money to U.S. politicians, or China, if there was a pack like a Russia pack or a China pack giving money to politicians so that they can serve their country's interests rather than America. That would be uprising. In fact, that's what everyone accused Donald Trump of taking money from Russia falsely. It was the Russiagate scandal, and everybody thought that was a big scandal. But if you flip it to Israel, politicians taking money to Israel, nobody cares about that because that is part of the corruption. Lindsey Graham and other senators want to line their own pockets by giving millions of taxpayer dollars to Israel. And look, as I've said in the previous segment, I don't think federal government should be sending money to, kill innocent civilians or FEMA, but obviously I have a preference if we're going to be complicit in this entire taxation system where the government can rip money out of the pockets of hardworking families. I'd rather it go to helping the hurricane victims than massacring innocent people in Israel and continuing to fund the reign of a state, a theocratic state that Thomas Jefferson would definitely be completely opposed to us helping prop up the existence of. But, I think the two stories of, Hillary Clinton that we talked about earlier and Lindsey Graham talking about serving Israel, they're connected. I think what the establishment ultimately wants is that they want to send your hard-earned taxpayer dollars to fund a genocide and the existence of a theocratic state overseas, and they don't want you to be able to say anything about it. As Hillary Clinton said, we've lost control. They want to have control. They want to censor you for stating your opinion, and I think it's just so reprehensible what Lindsey Graham said about caring more about Israel's interests than people of his own state. I really think that should be impeachable. If he should be charged for treason, every single member of Congress who votes to send money to Israel or Ukraine or any of these countries when there is literally a natural disaster, a hurricane going on right here in the United States, they should all be charged with treason, ripped out of Congress, handcuffed, thrown into prison. We should not put up with this in our country, and it's obviously not what the founding fathers intended for our country to be. So, anyways, that's gonna be it for today. It was a very short episode today. I apologize for that. It's a very slow news cycle, as I said before. Really, not a lot has happened, and I didn't have a lot to say about a lot of things like I did. Last episode spent 22 minutes talking about the vice presidential debate. This time, didn't have a lot. Hopefully, I'll have more to talk about next week. So, anyways, make sure to like and subscribe, share the video with your friends, and I will see you next week here on the Freedom Cast.